So, $1 million in Orange County buys you like a neighbor who can look directly into your kitchen window.
Right, or your bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, 2 hours of daily bumper-to-bumper traffic and something like a $13,000 annual property tax bill.
At least, usually more.
Right. But that exact same $1 million in Indiana buys you a secret off-market estate on a private lot, a completely predictable 25-minute commute, and it basically hands you back, I don't know, 30 to 50% of your income.
It is a staggering difference. It really is.
It's wild. So welcome to today's deep dive. We're looking at this massive, but somewhat quiet migration of coastal wealth. We are diving into a really interesting analysis by luxury residential advisor Kara Condé, and it's titled Trading Traffic for Tea Times, this off-market $1 gem.
And what we are seeing here is a fundamental shift in how high net worth professionals are actually defining luxury.
Because it used to just be about location, right?
Yeah. Exactly. For a long time, the absolute pinnacle of success was tied to very specific high-status zip codes, usually on the coasts, obviously.
You're paying that sunshine premium.
You paid the sunshine premium because, well, that is where the opportunities and the prestige were all clustered. But the data we're pulling from Condé's work, it really shows a breaking point.
People are just kind of done with it.
They are. People are analyzing the actual daily friction of living in these high-intensity coastal markets, and they're realizing the math simply doesn't support the lifestyle they thought they were buying.
Okay, let's unpack this, because what we're really talking about is swapping Gridlock for breathing room.
Yes, physical and financial breathing room.
Right. And to understand the mechanics of this shift, we need to look at the baseline financial realities first. We have this direct head-to-head comparison to work with from the source.
It's a great case study.
It really is. So on the California side, we're looking at Yorba Linda, which is, a highly desirable suburb in Orange County.
Very popular, great reputation.
Yeah, but a standard 4-bedroom single-family home there is currently listing between like $1.05 and $1.2 million, and usually higher, depending on the week or the bidding war.
And the thing is, that sticker price is really just the entry fee. The physical reality of that purchase is often a relatively tight suburban lot.
You're practically touching your neighbor's house.
Right. You are dealing with smaller footprints and very, very little privacy. But contrast that with the specific Fishers, Indiana property that's highlighted in this analysis.
Which is just a totally different world.
Completely. For right around that same $1 million mark, you aren't just getting a bit more square footage. You are stepping into a custom build on a spacious, totally private lot with mature landscaping.
And it has that seamless indoor-outdoor architecture too, right?
Yes, exactly. It's not just a bigger box. It's a completely elevated standard of living.
It honestly feels like buying a flagship luxury SUV versus a compact luxury sedan for the exact same sticker price, except the SUV somehow uses half the gas and costs less to insure.
That is a perfect way to put it. And what's fascinating here is that the value proposition isn't just about that initial purchase price.
Right, because buying the house is only day one.
Exactly. It's about the ongoing carrying cost of the asset. In California, due to those high baseline property values and the local tax structures, the annual property tax on a home in this tier often runs between $10,000 and $13,000.
Sometimes significantly more if the assessments go up.
Oh, absolutely. So over a decade, you are looking at well over $130,000 in unrecoverable costs.
Wow.
Just to maintain ownership of the home you already bought.
I mean, that is a college education fund entirely evaporated by property taxes.
Poof. Gone. And Indiana's property tax burden is just a fraction of that. But we have to zoom out even further to the overarching cost of living statistic.
Yeah, let's talk about that because the source had some crazy numbers.
It did. Fishers operates at a 30 to 50% lower cost of living compared to these major California markets.
Let's put some real numbers to that 30 to 50% stat because, it can sound a bit abstract when you just hear percentages.
Sure. Let's break it down.
So if a family is making, say, $300,000 a year in Orange County, a huge percentage of that is immediately vaporized by state income tax.
State income tax, sky-high gas prices, inflated grocery bills.
Exactly. And just expensive local services across the board. But if you take that same income, or honestly even a slightly adjusted income to Indiana, your purchasing power effectively doubles.
It's massive. You are reclaiming discretionary income. It's not just a one-time discount on a house. It is a compounding lifestyle dividend.
A compounded lifestyle dividend. I like that.
Well, it's true. Every single month, you have this massive surplus of capital that can be directed toward investments or experiences or simply just having peace of mind.
Which is huge.
You are no longer on this financial treadmill where, making a top-tier income still feels like you are just barely keeping your head above water.
Which brings up a really interesting question for you, the listener. What do you actually do with that reclaimed capital and, maybe more importantly, the reclaimed time?
Time is the ultimate luxury.
It really is. So let's leave the balance sheet for a second and just look at a random Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
In Southern California, the baseline stress of simply moving from point A to point B is a known quantity.
Oh, it's legendary.
You are structuring your entire day around the 405 or the 5 freeway. Like, you have to leave at exactly 2:14 p.m. or you're doomed.
Right, and the psychological toll of that really cannot be overstated. You are spending, 10 to 15 hours a week in a state of low-grade, constant vigilance behind the wheel.
It's gripping the steering wheel.
Exactly. But when you relocate to a place like Fishers, which, by the way, has a population of around 100,000, so it's not some tiny town.
Right, it has robust economic and modern infrastructure.
Yes, you are dropping that commute drastically. Downtown Indianapolis, which offers world-class healthcare, major cultural institutions, professional sports, that is a highly predictable 25-minute drive.
Predictability. I feel like that might be the most underrated luxury of all, just knowing exactly when you will be home for dinner.
It changes the entire dynamic of your evening.
But let's look at what is actually waiting for you when you get home. Because this particular Fishers property, in Conde's article, is located inside a premier golf community.
Right, which brings a whole new level of amenities.
Yeah. The Homeowners Association provides access to an 18-hole Arthur Hills Design Championship course, and it winds through all these preserved wetlands and woods.
It creates an entirely different domestic ecosystem.
Yeah.
You aren't just driving into a sterile subdivision and immediately closing your garage door.
Okay, but let me push back on this for a second. I'm looking at this amenity list from the source, and it is incredibly golf-heavy.
It is a golf community, yes.
Right. So if I don't know a 9-iron from a pitching wedge, if I don't golf at all, am I essentially just paying massive HOA fees to subsidize my neighbor's tee times? Like, why would a non-golfer even care about this specific community structure?
That is a very fair question, and it's a crucial distinction to make. The golf course is really simply the anchor for a much larger social infrastructure.
Okay, so what else is there?
What you are actually buying into is a curated community experience. Beyond the greens, these types of communities feature expansive clubhouses with varied dining options, heated junior Olympic-sized pools.
Oh, wow, junior Olympic pools.
Yeah, really high-end stuff, plus tennis complexes and modern fitness centers offering group classes.
So it functions a lot more like a private resort where you just happen to live.
Exactly. And Conde's breakdown really emphasizes the programming aspect of it all.
What do you mean by programming? Like events?
Yes, it's the full calendar of family-friendly social events. They have summer kids camps, junior tennis programs, elegant holiday gatherings.
Okay, that actually sounds amazing for families.
It is. Luxury in this context is designed to be approachable and engaging. It solves the isolation problem that often plagues those massive walled-off suburban estates.
Right, where you never even see your neighbors.
Exactly. Here you are instantly plugged into a vibrant, structured community life. Organic friendships just form naturally at the pool or the clubhouse dining room.
And even if you want to step outside the gates of that specific neighborhood, the broader environment of Fishers supports that same kind of low-friction lifestyle.
Definitely. The city itself is very thoughtfully designed.
The source mentions there are over 85 miles of scenic trails and parks.
85 miles.
Yeah. Plus, you have the Nickel Plate District for, like, walkable dining. You've got Geist Reservoir for boating. And a big one for California transplants. You actually get to experience 4 distinct seasons.
Right, you get a real autumn. And, every element of that physical environment is geared toward outdoor engagement rather than defensive living.
Defensive living, that's an interesting phrase.
Well, think about it. In highly congested areas, your home is often a fortress you retreat into just to escape the chaos outside.
Oh, man, that is so true. You just want to lock the door and hide.
But in this Midwest model, the home is a launchpad into a highly accessible, low-stress community.
Which perfectly explains why families, specifically, are the ones really driving this migration right now.
Without a doubt, families are leading the charge.
Because when you strip away the custom cabinetry and the fancy golf simulators, you get down to the absolute bedrock of why parents actually uproot their entire lives.
It's always about the kids.
Always. It comes down to long-term stability, education, and physical safety. Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's look at the family equation here, because the contrast in the educational environments is startling.
Schools are invariably the tipping point for a cross-country relocation.
They have to be.
In Orange County, the public schools are undeniably strong, but the environment is widely described as hyper-competitive.
Yeah, it's that coastal intensity just kind of bleeding directly into the classroom.
Exactly.
Everything feels like a zero-sum game where kids are competing for limited spots in elite programs from a kindergarten, and parents are just constantly stressed about academic posturing.
It's exhausting. But contrast that with Fishers, which features the Hamilton Southeastern School District.
Which is highly rated, right?
Very. These are elite, A+ rated public schools, but they exist within a culture that prioritizes holistic development over this sort of blood sport competition.
So you still get the grades, but without the burnout.
Precisely. You are securing top-tier academic outcomes without subjecting your kids to a pressure cooker environment.
And without paying $40,000 a year in private school tuition. Which, again, goes right back to that compounding lifestyle dividend we talked about earlier.
It all connects.
It really does. But there is a specific phrase in Condi's analysis from a California transplant that really caught my eye. They described the psychological shift of moving to Fishers as finally exhaling.
Yes, finally exhaling. If we connect this to the bigger picture, that concept is profound.
It feels very visceral.
It is. We usually measure real estate strictly in terms of financial ROI, right? We look at property values and interest rates, but we rarely calculate the emotional ROI of a low-stress environment. Think about the hidden tax of anxiety that coastal parents pay every single day.
The hidden tax of anxiety. Let's explore how that actually manifests for a family.
Well, it manifests physiologically. It is literally operating in a subtle state of fight or flight all the time.
Just from daily life.
Yes. You are anxious about the traffic making you late for school pickup. You are anxious about the safety of the neighborhood if your kids are riding their bikes out of eyesight.
You're anxious about the sheer cost of just keeping up with everyone else.
Exactly. So when you move to a city that consistently ranks among the safest places to live in America, a place where kids can literally roam the neighborhood safely until the streetlights come on, you are removing that massive cognitive load.
Your nervous system actually gets to reset.
It does.
The energy you used to spend just like managing the crazy logistics of your Tuesday can suddenly be reinvested into your actual family relationships.
You can actually be present.
Right. You aren't vibrating with residual road rage during family dinner.
And that physiological reset is the true product being sold here. The house and the community, they are really just the vehicles that deliver that peace of mind.
Okay, so assuming someone listening to this is, say, sitting in Gridlock on the 5 freeway right now, gripping the steering wheel, and totally sold on the why and the where.
They're ready to pack their bags.
Exactly. The obvious question then becomes the how. Because if this lifestyle is so highly coveted and it's essentially half the price of California, why aren't these specific homes just plastered all over Zillow?
Ah, that is the catch.
Right. Because the $1 million Fishers property we've been using as our baseline today is explicitly described in the source as off-market.
Yes, and the off-market reality is a major, major hurdle for outsiders who are trying to enter this tier of real estate.
Because you literally can't see them.
No. These homes never hit the public multiple listing service. You absolutely cannot find them by just scrolling through standard real estate apps at midnight.
Which, to me, selling off-market seems entirely counterintuitive.
How so?
Well, if I'm selling a gorgeous, custom-built $1 million home, wouldn't I want maximum exposure? Wouldn't I want a bidding war with 50 buyers driving the price to the moon? Why hide it?
You would naturally assume so. But at a certain wealth threshold, a seller's priorities fundamentally change.
They don't care about the money.
It's not that they don't care about the money, but they begin to value privacy, security, and convenience over squeezing out the absolute last dollar in some public frenzy.
Oh, I see. So this sounds a bit like a secret menu at a high-end restaurant.
That's a fun way to put it, yeah.
It's less like putting a huge billboard on the highway and more like using a corporate headhunter.
Yeah.
You aren't looking for thousands of random applications. You are paying an expert to quietly find the exact perfect match within their private network.
That is a very accurate analogy. High net worth sellers do not want hundreds of unvetted strangers wandering through their private sanctuaries every Sunday during an open house.
Opening their closets, looking in their bathrooms.
Exactly. And they certainly do not want high-resolution photos of their art, their floor layout, and their personal belongings permanently archived on the internet for anyone to see. They want a highly controlled, discreet transaction.
They want the transaction to be practically invisible to the general public.
Yes, they do. And on the buyer side, this is where the role of a luxury residential advisor and an off-market specialist like Karakonde becomes absolute critical infrastructure.
Because otherwise you're locked out.
Completely. Because these properties do not exist publicly, the entire market is entirely relationship-driven.
It's essentially a gate-kept ecosystem.
Yeah.
If you don't know the person who holds the keys, you don't even know the house is for sale.
Precisely. Only pre-qualified, heavily vetted buyers who are actively working with a connected, trusted advisor are ever even invited to experience these properties. The advisor acts as a trusted conduit. They sit between a seller who is demanding privacy and a buyer who is demanding quality.
Which completely changes the emotional dynamic of buying a home, doesn't it?
It turns it from a battle into a business transaction.
Yeah, because if you are relocating from California, the absolute last thing you want is to fly across the country, fall in love with a house, and then get dragged into some toxic, blind bidding war against 20 local buyers.
Only to lose out and have to start all over again.
Right. That sounds like a nightmare.
It is, but by accessing the off-market, you completely bypass the public hysteria. You are granted private access to tour the home, conduct your analysis, and negotiate in a calm, professional environment.
That alone sounds worth it.
It is. But a true off-market specialist provides more than just the introduction. According to the article, they execute what is known as a white glove concierge approach.
Okay, explain how that concierge approach actually functions when you are dealing with a 2,000-mile relocation. Because moving a family, transferring schools, moving assets, and buying a house unseen, that is a massive logistical nightmare.
It is a massive project management undertaking. But a specialized advisor doesn't just unlock the front door and say, here's the kitchen.
Right.
They provide custom, hyperlocal analysis on things like school districts and exact commute times. They discreetly source properties that match the family's specific lifestyle needs before those properties are even whispered about publicly.
So they're doing the legwork before you even book a flight.
Exactly. And when you do fly in, they arrange private, highly coordinated tours that maximize a buyer's very limited time in town. They essentially act as your boots on the ground.
Anticipating friction points and just eliminating them.
Yes, they turn a highly stressful, high-risk relocation into a seamlessly executed transition.
So what does this all mean for you? Let's zoom all the way out and look at the sheer scale of the paradigm shift we've explored today.
It's a big shift.
It really is.
Yeah.
We started with the raw mathematics of geographic arbitrage. The exact same $1 million that secures a tightly packed, heavily taxed property in coastal California can seamlessly translate into a sprawling, totally private, off-market estate in Fishers, Indiana.
Right. You are dramatically upgrading your physical environment while at the exact same time cutting your overarching cost of living by up to 50%.
Which is life-changing money.
It really is. And you are trading highly competitive, high-stress coastal schools for elite public education in neighborhoods where safety is just a given, not some luxury add-on.
And you are trading hours of soul-crushing traffic for a predictable commute. Plus, you get immediate access to a resort-style social infrastructure that actually builds community rather than walling you off from it.
The data and the trends we've analyzed today, they pose a very direct challenge to anyone currently living in a hyper-expensive coastal market.
They really do.
I would encourage you, the listener, to take a hard, objective inventory of your daily routine. Are you paying an astronomical premium just for the privilege of existing in a specific zip code?
So you live there.
Exactly. And what is the actual return on investment for that premium? Is that environment giving you energy, or is it constantly, quietly draining it away through financial pressure, traffic, and generalized anxiety?
It really forces you to redefine what luxury actually is.
It changes the whole conversation.
Because for decades, we've been sold the idea that luxury is purely a status symbol, a specific address, an ocean view you barely even have time to look at, or an elite private school.
Oh.
But if the ultimate luxury in life is actually time.
Time and peace of mind.
Right. Time to spend spend with your kids, time to invest in your health, time to pursue your interest without constantly looking at the clock and the peace of mind that comes with a real financial breathing room.
Then perhaps the pinnacle of success isn't found in a congested coastal city at all.
Maybe not. Is it possible that true luxury is simply having the structural and financial freedom to finally exhale?